Welcome back, guys. I'm Gary with Automatic Door and Hardware. We're a manufacturer of commercial doors, automatic sliding doors, and the parts and hardware that go with those doors. If you like learning about doors and hardware, then you've come to the right place. Each day we try to do at least 2 or 3 videos relating to this. So if you guys could like this video and subscribe to our channel. Okay guys, so our subject today is how to replace a bottom guide on a Stanley automatic sliding door. And to answer this question, I brought in my dad, who has years and years of experience in the automatic door industry, and I thought I would give you guys a different perspective than just hearing me talk about it. So here's my dad. He could explain a little bit about himself.
Hi, I'm Gary Esther Sr. I've been working on automatic doors since pretty much all my life. Really started in about like 1982, although even growing up as a kid I used to be rebuilding the Stanley hydraulic swing door openers in the garage with my dad, because he had a company too, and we pretty much been working on automatic doors for quite some time.
Yeah, so he's been a distributor for almost every automatic door brand, so he's very familiar not only in the Stanley bottom guide design, but in pretty much all the automatic door bottom guide types. But we thought we'd make this video because this is really one of the major issues that you might come across if you have a Stanley automatic sliding door system. Okay guys, so now we're going to talk about some symptoms that you could see if you have that would indicate that the bottom guide needs to be replaced. So my dad will cover this.
Yeah, some of the symptoms on a Stanley FBO guide would be erratic door operation, meaning the door may open at normal speed and then all of a sudden operate real slow, or it could do it even on the closing cycle. Some of the other symptoms, of course, would be like loud noise, squealing from the bottom where the roller is shot on it. Oftentimes when installers install the Stanley FBO guide, they don't tighten all the bolts on the guide properly before they install it, and then they just simply fall apart. And you can oftentimes tell that by looking down at the door shoe and where the guide is on the bottom, and seeing a lot of excessive movement on the thing. It should be stationary, and it shouldn't be moving back and forth. That'd be some of the symptoms.
And for those of you that are unfamiliar, when we say bottom guide, when you're looking at the moving panels of an automatic sliding door, the Stanley model, we're talking about the heel side of the door, not the leading edge of the door, but I guess the trailing side, the heel side of the door. And at the very bottom is where the bottom guide is attached, and it's usually by 4 screws. And if you stand back from the door, you can kind of see the bottom guide riding in the bottom track. Now there are a couple different types of guides, but what we're talking about is the full breakout guide, which is the model where you have all 4 door panels of the Stanley automatic sliding door can swing out away from the building.
On some Stanley sliding doors that have been in there for quite some time and have a lot of mileage on them, the bottom track can actually get wore down to the point that the forks in the guide of the Stanley guide are digging in and causing a problem also. In those extreme cases, when you do replace the bottom guide, you need to replace the bottom track also. And you can easily tell that that track is worn by taking a brand new guide and setting it in the track, and it's obvious that the surface is wore down to the point, generally they'll be even shiny, and they'll be gouged out to the point where the forks won't roll smoothly in the guide track. They'll be grinding on the bottom of the track, and it won't work properly unless the track is replaced. these guides are easily replaced by simply removing the 2 screws on each side of the automatic door header and hinge the cover open. Before you do that, you need to turn the power off to the Stanley door and slide it all the way to the opposite position. And then it's relatively easy to replace Stanley FBO guides, one of the easier ones in the industry. And that would be, you'd remove 2 9/16 inch bolts that hold the belt clip to the actual carriage of the door. And once those are removed, then you can take a quick look at the door by grabbing the door leaf that you've removed from the belt clip and simply sliding it with high speed as fast as you can go, and open and close, or push it closed really fast, and you'll feel resistance if that guide is bad too. It'll all of a sudden roll smoothly, and then all of a sudden it'll just bind, and that's all in that bottom guide. So that once you've determined that, there's anti-risers on the Stanley carriage that you have to loosen and slide down to their lowest point. Then all you have to do is simply lift the door up and off the roller track. And you have to be very careful and cautious when you're doing this, that you know, the doors are quite heavy. You don't want to let it fall and end up breaking glass or some other thing. But once that door is out, then you can set it over on the side, and you'll pretty much immediately see on a lot of doors too, where the guides wore out to the point where the fork is spring loaded and moves up and down, and it won't move up and down anymore. I've learned through experience that if you do have a Stanley door that has one bottom guide, I always replace both, because you'll replace one. I can tell you from years and years of experience that you may replace one, and then 2 months later they're calling you, hey, that door is doing the same thing, and you go back out there and the other guide's shot now. So it's best to replace them both as a pair, and then you won't have that callback or because you didn't replace the one that's almost pretty much shot anyway, you're getting called back out there. They are easily replaced. There's 4 Phillips head screws that you have to remove. Sometimes you may need an impact to get those screws loose, or to hit them hard with a hammer to loosen them up and then back them out. And then you simply take the new one. Before you do install the new one, make sure that large Allen bolt is as tight as you can get it. Otherwise it'll be falling apart in 2 or 3 months. Then you take the fork guide, insert it in the door, and put the 4 screws back in, lock them down, and then simply reinstall the door on the track, and then readjust your anti-risers properly. There should be just a small clearance from that anti-riser roller to the top of the header, so that as you roll the door, that anti-riser is not touching. I've been on many jobs where people lock those down tight and cause it to bind, and cause because they didn't know what they were doing, and they installed or was done improperly. Then you can take that door leaf after your anti-risers are adjusted and slide it back and forth, and you'll notice a giant improvement where it's smooth as glass and works properly. Then you'll have to take the belt clip with the 2 bolts and put them back in and tighten them down snug, and then go to the other door leaf and do the same thing all over again, that I have already talked about.
Mm-hmm. Now, the only another note, guys, as well, is a lot of times we get contacted about, you know, I removed the bottom guide and there was a bunch of like gunk and sticky stuff on it. We always get asked, you know, what type of grease should we use? Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of you guys should not be greasing them up with, I mean, they should not be sticky. It's almost like a shock absorber with the way the block is in the spring. It should be able to move it, with the irregularities in the floor.
Our FBO guides that we sell are pre-lubricated with special lubricant that doesn't attract dirt and dust to gum it all up, which I've seen out there in many cases where people put axle grease on them and they gum up excessively and cause the door to not operate correctly. In some cases, when you're looking at the FBO track, you need to look carefully at the nylon inserts that are in them that fork rides in. And sometimes if those are excessively wore down, those may require replacement also. In many instances, even though that you can purchase this nylon inserts, they can't be put into the track because the tracks are so bent up that you can't get it out, and nor even if you got it out, can you slide in the new stuff. In those cases, you have to replace the whole track with a new one. And we may talk about that in a future video.
Definitely. But what another note too is, we sell what we call the TuneUp Repair Kit, and Gary Sr. will talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that's easy to do when you're replacing the bottom guide also. And the TuneUp Repair Kit comes with 2 FBO guides and 4 rollers. So when you pull the door off and you're replacing that FBO guide, it's an opportune time to replace the top rollers also with new ones, because the bearings get shot on those, or those rollers get wore down to the point too that the door's dragging on the bottom guide track.
Yep. And we do get a lot of cases where, you know, a lot of times the door may still function, but it's just really noisy. You hear a lot of squeaking or some sort of sound coming from the door, and a lot of times this is because of the bottom guide rollers, or it could be from your top rollers too. So we'll do a video on the top rollers, but essentially with our TuneUp Repair Kit, the chances are when you replace the rollers and bottom guides, you're not going to have any type of issue ever. Like, these are very popular amongst you know, several hotel chains that purchase for their facility maintenance crews, and you know, with hotels, they really pride themselves on a welcoming experience as you enter the building. And if the door's really noisy, it's just not going to do. So, you know, they'll do what we call preventative maintenance and actually go every year, just get a TuneUp Repair Kit and replace the rollers and guides, because, you know, at the end of the day, you don't want a broken door that breaks down at a busy time, maybe during the holidays or during your rush hour. It's not going to be a good situation. So, you know, just taking the time to, you know, it's just like maintenance in a car, changing your oil. Taking the time to do the basics can actually elongate the life of your automatic door, you know, for a lifetime, really. So, any final thoughts in terms of any other repairs that they might look at after the bottom guides for preventative maintenance? I know, like, decals is definitely one, especially if you're in a sunny area. We supply decals. What are some of the other things you've come across that they might need to replace, specifically on a Stanley?
Yeah, it's a good idea to check the weather stripping on the door, especially the adhesive type weather stripping on the fixed side light doors tends to come off. And that's available from us.
Yep.
It's a good idea also to check the breakaway on the door. And what I mean by that is on a full breakout package, you have one stationary panel that snaps away, and then you have your sliding door leads that snap away. Make sure that those are adjusted properly. Oftentimes, different municipalities have different code requirements for that breakaway, but in general, it should be snug so that if it's slightly bumped, it's not popping off the track and opening up, which can cause excessive scraping on the doors and wear. And it's a good idea to look at that though and make sure that those are adjusted properly. The same with the stationary side light door that snaps in, that should fit snugly. Oftentimes those ball catches can get bent up on the stationary door leads, and we have those available. They're easy to replace with 2 screws. And of course, you want to check over the door to make sure all the safety devices are working, such as the cutoff switches are shutting the door down when it's opened up, and when you snap them back in, it should turn back on. You want to check the sensors and presence sensors to make sure that they're all functioning and working properly and are adjusted at the correct zones.
Yeah. So guys, there are other repairs or issues you can come across with these Stanley automatic sliding doors. Gary Sr. just railed off a few other things to check to give you an idea of the types of things that may be wrong with your door. But we will be answering those issues and helping you solve those problems in a later series of videos. But it's just to keep you guys thinking. So if you have any questions, please email us at sales@autodoorandhardware.com, and we'll be happy to respond. Or you could always visit our website too. That's where we have available, the bottom guide, tune-up kits and top rollers and everything for a Stanley automatic sliding door. So that's all available on our website at autodoorandhardware.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.